What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of The House Show. So for today, I will be discussing about what is the differences between Schedule H and Schedule G with you. The main difference for a Schedule H and a Schedule G is that Schedule H is mainly for a high-rise development, whereby it is a strata. If you were to purchase a high-rise, then you actually own a unit, you actually own a parcel from that entire unit. That is what we call a strata. While for Schedule G, it's mainly for a landed properties. So say if today you were to buy a landed property from a developer, and then that is where Schedule G will be included in your S&P. This Schedule H and Schedule G thing is actually included in your sell and purchase agreement. If you do actually find it out in Google, you can actually see there's a schedules for the entire thing. So whereby it's called a progressive interest, which is something that you will have to pay. Schedule H and Schedule G, they actually have schedules that to guide buyers to pay the banks. There are actually three parties involved: the buyers, the developers, and the banks. So we, as the buyer, we actually finance from the banks, and then the developer will actually withdraw their monies from the banks, which is paid by us. Let's say if today this particular developer has completed a stage, and then the architect has actually verified the work done. So meaning that this particular work done is completed. So in order for the developer to claim the money from the banks, if this claim is successful, then the banks will actually inform us as a buyer to actually start to pay our progressive interest. Same thing applied to every stages. So if the developer has completed a certain stage, and then they will need to get someone to actually verify their work done, if it's completed or not. So in order for the developer to actually claim monies from the banks, if the developer claim more money from the banks, then we as buyer will need to pay the banks more. So that is what we call it a progressive interest. To add on a little bit more on this progressive interest thing, back then, I think it's 5 years back or 5 to 7 years back, there's a scheme called developer interest bearing scheme. I think it's called a DIBS, whereby the buyers will not need to pay the so-called progressive interest. The projects which is under this DIBS thing, the buyer for this project will actually no need to pay any of this progressive interest. That actually causes speculation in our market, and hence this DIBS thing actually has been removed. Schedule H and Schedule G, the differences are actually Schedule H is mainly for high rise, and then the developer will actually needs to complete the entire development in 36 months. So if the developer were to complete later than 36 months, they will actually needs to pay the purchaser interest. While for Schedule G, it's mainly for these landed properties. So landed properties is most of the time is not as complicated as high-rise, right? Because high-rise sometimes might go like 30 to 40 stories. So they would technically takes more time compared to a landed property. Because if it's a high-rise, then let's say you have 30 to 40 stories, then it's quite tall. Means that the developer will actually needs to carry out a ton of work. So that's the first point why Schedule H has 36 months to complete compared to this landed property where they only have 24 months to complete. To elaborate more on that, if this entire project, this entire high-rise actually comes, the unit that you have purchased actually comes with furniture, then all those time needed to actually move the furniture into every certain floors in every certain units actually takes a lot of time as well. While for Schedule G, it's mainly for this landed property, so typically it's just a double story terrace or semi-D or whatsoever. So normally it takes 24 months to complete. If the developer did not complete in 24 months time, then the buyer, the purchaser, will actually receive some compensation from the developer, which includes of this interest. I think there's a slight difference in the progressive interest claims for developer between Schedule H and Schedule G. You can actually check out in details of the claim for developers for both of those schedules if you are interested to know more details about it. If this DIBS thing were to continue until today, what's your thought about it? Will the DIBS thing actually affect the entire market, or the DIBS thing doesn't bring any benefits to the market? Let me know in the comment section. So I guess that comes to an end of this episode. I know it's quite a short video for today, but yeah, just let it be. This is James Lau here, so hopefully to see you again in the next one.